For centuries, Rome dominated the ancient world. Its armies conquered kingdoms, crushed rebellions, and defeated nearly every enemy that stood in its path. But there was one man who terrified Rome more than anyone else, a man whose name became legendary, a commander so dangerous that Roman parents supposedly used his name to frighten their children. For more than 15 years, Rome threw army after army at him, and for more than 15 years, he just kept winning. His name was Hannibal Barca, and he came closer than anyone else to destroying Rome itself. Hannibal was born around 247 BC in Carthage, a wealthy city located in modern-day Tunisia. At the time, Carthage and Rome were locked in a struggle for power. The two civilizations had already fought one major war. Rome won, and Carthage was humiliated. Nobody took that defeat harder than Hannibal's father, Hamilcar Barca. According to ancient sources, Hamilcar once brought his young son to an altar and made him swear an oath that he would never be a friend of Rome. Whether the story is completely true or not, one thing is certain: Hannibal spent the rest of his life acting like it was. As he grew older, Hannibal followed his father into military campaigns in Spain. While most people his age were still trying to figure out their future, Hannibal was learning how to command soldiers, lead armies, and survive on campaign. After years of experience, he eventually became Carthage's commander in Spain. And it wasn't long before he started causing problems for Rome. The spark came from a city called Saguntum. The city was allied with Rome. Hannibal attacked it anyway. Rome demanded an explanation. Hannibal essentially gave them the ancient version of the phrase, "do something about it." Rome did, and the Second Punic War began. What happened next would become one of the most famous military campaigns in history. Most people expected Hannibal to attack Rome by sea. That would have been the logical option. Hannibal wasn't interested in logical. Instead, he decided to do something that sounded completely insane. He would invade Italy by land. That meant crossing rivers, crossing hostile territory, crossing mountain ranges, and eventually crossing the Alps. Yes, the Alps. With an army and elephants. Even today, the idea sounds ridiculous. Yet somehow Hannibal made it happen. He marched tens of thousands of soldiers out of Spain, through southern France, and toward the mountains. The journey was brutal. Tribes attacked his army. Supplies ran low, men froze, animals died. Entire sections of the route were barely passable. At one point, soldiers reportedly had to carve paths into mountain cliffs just to continue moving forward. By the time Hannibal reached Italy, he had lost a huge portion of his army. Most commanders would have considered the campaign a disaster. Hannibal was just getting started. Rome was stunned. Nobody expected an enemy army to suddenly emerge from the Alps, especially not one led by a commander bold enough to bring elephants with him. The Romans quickly assembled armies to stop him. It did not go well. First came the Battle of Trebia. Roman forces attacked. Hannibal baited them into a trap. The result was a crushing Roman defeat. Then came Lake Trasimene. This battle was even worse. Hannibal hid troops in the surrounding hills and forests. As the Roman army marched into position, his forces suddenly attacked from multiple directions. The Romans were trapped. Thousands were killed. The battle became one of the largest ambushes in military history. At this point, panic was spreading through Rome. Imagine hearing that a foreign general had crossed impossible mountains, invaded your homeland, and destroyed multiple armies in only a few years. The Romans knew they were facing someone extraordinary. Then came Cannae, the battle that would make Hannibal immortal. In 216 BC, Rome assembled one of the largest armies it had ever fielded. Some estimates placed the Roman force at around 80,000 men. They were determined to crush Hannibal once and for all. Instead, Hannibal delivered one of the greatest military victories in history. As the battle began, Hannibal deliberately allowed the center of his army to slowly fall back. The Romans thought they were winning. They pushed forward, exactly as Hannibal wanted. Meanwhile, his stronger troops on the flanks began surrounding the Roman army. The trap snapped shut. Roman soldiers found themselves trapped on all sides. What followed was slaughter. By the end of the battle, tens of thousands of Romans were dead. Entire generations of Roman leaders would study Cannae. Military academies still study it today. For many commanders, one victory like that would define a career. For Hannibal, it was simply another chapter. Yet despite all these victories, one question remained. If Hannibal was so successful, why didn't he destroy Rome? The answer is surprisingly simple. Winning battles and winning wars are not the same thing. Hannibal had defeated Roman armies, he had terrified the Republic, but he lacked the reinforcements and resources needed to completely finish the job. Meanwhile, Rome refused to surrender. Again and again, they rebuilt their armies. Again and again, they returned to the fight. Most nations would have negotiated peace after suffering defeats like Trebia, Trasimene, and Cannae. Rome did not. The war dragged on. Years passed, and eventually a new Roman commander emerged. His name was Scipio. Unlike many Roman generals before him, Scipio studied Hannibal carefully. He learned from him, adapted to him, and eventually decided to attack Carthage itself. Suddenly, Hannibal was forced to leave Italy and return home. The hunter had become the hunted. The final showdown came at the Battle of Zama. For the first time in years, Hannibal found himself facing an opponent capable of matching him. This time, victory belonged to Rome. Hannibal lost, and with that defeat, Carthage's hopes of winning the war disappeared. But Hannibal's story wasn't over. For years after the war, Rome remained obsessed with him. They feared his influence. They feared his intelligence. Most of all, they feared what he might accomplish if given another chance. Eventually, Hannibal fled into exile. He traveled across the eastern Mediterranean, moving from kingdom to kingdom, while Rome continued pressuring rulers to hand him over. Imagine being hunted by the most powerful republic on earth for years. That is how dangerous Rome believed he was. Finally, as Roman agents closed in, Hannibal made one final decision. Rather than be captured, he took poison and ended his own life. He was around 65 years old. In the end, Hannibal failed to destroy Rome, but Rome never forgot him. More than 2,000 years later, he remains one of history's most respected military commanders. Not because he conquered the largest empire, not because he ruled the world, but because he did something few people ever thought possible. He made Rome afraid, and for a very long time, there was nothing Rome could do to stop him. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Subscribe for more content like this.